Hey everyone, it is April 7, 2013. I'm Rene Ritchie, and not live from New York.
It's the iMore Show! And it's my dad's 70th birthday. Props to you.
Props, Mr. Mitchell. Joining me tonight is Kevin Mitchell from Crackberry.com and Daniel Rubino from Windows Phone Central. And we are talking about everything that happened in mobile this week, and we're going to do it in 20 minutes or less.
Because we've recorded this twice already, screwed up the filming every time.
Third time's the charm.
We're so mad right now. We're just going to do this really quick and dirty and good.
All right, so first thing, we woke up Saturday morning. There was this wacky internet poll going on, this completely lame thing called a March Madness smartphone tournament, run by people who do not talk about smartphones. The iPhone lost in the first round to a phone I've never even heard of, probably owned in Czechoslovakia.
The Asus Fab phone?
I still don't know what that is.
I don't know. I've never seen it
But
before.
you saw that the BlackBerry Z10 was losing to the Nokia Lumia 920, and you lost it.
I didn't actually see it, okay?
Okay.
Look, we have a pact, because this stupid event has been running the last couple of years. I think the first year ever, I blogged it, which caused somebody else to blog it.
I have never blogged it.
And we decided we'll never blog it again. And we haven't. We shun it. It gets a few thousand votes overall.
I've still never heard of it.
Exactly. But Friday morning I woke up, or Saturday morning I woke up, and my Twitter feed was just full of tweets. The Crackberry forums were full of threads of people saying, Kevin, you gotta blog this. The BlackBerry Z10 is up against Lumia 920 in the finals, and we're losing because you haven't blogged it yet. We're behind by 20%
Never heard of either
or
of these
something.
phones.
And I knew Dan was asleep.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe I can just blog and get away with it, and we can win victory. You know, Z10 power, we need it right now. Let's just keep the momentum going. So I blog it. At which point, all hell breaks loose. And I got picked up. Like, I told people how to cheat because this contest is so poorly run. They use like the poll daddy, like the bare minimum entry of polling online.
Which is weird because with Poll Daddy you can restrict IP and.
Oh yeah, but it's easy
voting.
to game. I mean, you can reset your cookies if they restrict by IP. If you're a willing person, and I mean our mobile people are passionate, right? It's not that hard to game.
Especially people for
That's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, we're passionate. So people go nuts, and now it's like BlackBerry people versus Windows Phone people. People are like, Kevin's a cheater.
And Dan was still sleeping at this point.
And when you woke up, I was trolling your comments hard because George blogged it up on WP Central.
I was not anticipating on Ryan that we had tons of tips on it, and I was like, no, we're not doing that. Ignore. Because every time a website does these contests or these polls, we always get tipped on it to sort of like skew the results, and we're just not interested in it. No. And that's the irony here. Like, you're supposed to be the big BlackBerry guy and the big Windows Phone guy, and we both don't care about these contests, like about winning them. But like the community does. Like, not only did we get told to post it, then after we did post it, someone emailed me. It was like, you have to sticky it. And I'm like,
embed the poll on the blog post, so it's easier to vote.
Yeah, like you're lucky I don't just delete the whole thing and tell you all to go away. So
look, it shows a couple things. One, our communities of online users are the biggest and best on the internet.
So how many votes were on this poll before you started blogging?
Like a couple thousand.
And
total.
after you blogged it?
It's past 40,000 right now, and it's been going nonstop. It's ridiculous. Like,
you're welcome.
I don't know. We should just run our own one day. Like, here, guys, go nuts, fight amongst yourselves, pick a winner on our sites, because it's.
So come Tuesday, I'm going to look at this, and one of you will have wedgied this thing to success. You will have won the wedgie contest for third place.
Look, I think Lumia's got it, because I think you guys are cheating, obviously.
How are you cheating?
But vote Z10, because as much as we cheat, somebody's then
still winning.
The exact margin doesn't really change. Like, there's people on both ends just cheating.
But we didn't advocate people cheating. We didn't tell them
Your
how
forums
to.
where I learned how to cheat. I found a thread in the forums on Windows Phone Central.
You read our forums?
I stalk your forums. Come on.
All right.
It's pretty funny. But anyways, we're here together. Dan, how's
spooning?
No fighting, no fisticuffs.
No.
And
it's just good trolling, fanboy fun for a day. But we can take it off too and have it.
So in other news this week, Facebook finally had their mobile event. It was their third event for the year, but this was the mobile event. A couple years ago, they hired Eric Sang from Android. They hired Mike Mattis, who kind of ushered in this textured interface. These guys have not been working on Newsfeed for 2 years. The rumor was, Mark Zuckerberg was giving these designers and developers the Steve Jobs walk in the park. Come with me, we'll change the world. We kind of figured it was going to be exactly what it ended up being. An app with a launcher-like...
Skin-like.
I called it a face hugger that was kind of latching onto Android and injecting its own xenomorph DNA. And I think that's pretty much what it was.
I like Facepalm phone.
Face-
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the basic idea is that they're going to intermediate Google on Google's own platform, and they're going to sort of take control of the experience. Now, I watched the event, and Mark Zuckerberg's friends are the most beautiful people in the world who take the most beautiful photographs. And to kind of check that, I went to my news feed, and it is filled with like memes of people with like mustaches and Can Has things, and drunken revelry photos that would not look good beyond 200 pixels by 200 pixels.
Yeah, I think they confused Facebook streaming with Flickr, or was it 480px or
Great demo in real life, probably not so hot.
Well, so people were confused. There was this great angst on the internet. Who's this phone for? This phone is for people for whom Facebook is the internet, the same way CompuServe or AOL used to be the internet. It's not for us. It would send people like us running and screaming in the opposite direction.
Especially like that commercial did when we saw it.
Yeah, it's a pretty mid-range phone too. I mean,
Yes.
let's talk about the hardware for a second. I mean, the hardware is like nothing spectacular. It's a basic HTC phone with a 5 megapixel camera and like.
An old processor.
But you'll
Yeah.
be able to run it on other phones than the HTC first.
Right. So then you get this idea
Why?
that the software. So then it almost raises the question of like, what was the point of the HTC first?
Well, you can run it, but it's not going to be as good because HTC did a bunch of stuff to let it like the chatterheads can hook
Yeah.
into the
Right.
Core OS. So they basically made a custom launcher for Android like Sense.
So is this just the Cha-Cha 2?
The
I mean, that's what it's called, right? The
Cha-Cha and the Salsa, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't see that. I see, like, we were discussing this earlier, but, you know, they had to do this phone, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it was the least they could have done, and it's still underwhelming.
Well, Facebook had to do it, but I don't see, and Phil Nickinson from Android Central, what about this? I don't see what HTC gets out of it because it's called the HTC first. It's not called the HTC Facebook, so they gain no halo effect from this phone.
Right. Yeah, it'll be real interesting to see. I mean, like I said, this is the least they could have done. I'm more interested long term to see what Amazon's going to do.
Kindle phone.
Only because Amazon, to me, is a truly innovative company that keeps nailing things and getting stuff right, where Facebook just seems like it trudges along and stumbles into success. And so, and maybe I'm being harsh on them, but you know, they're dominating the social category right now, but everybody is also criticizing it, and it says, you know, they may be losing that as well. So I'll be interested to see how Amazon responds to this.
The interesting thing for me is that Facebook said we are doing a people-centric approach. They kind of took a shot at Android and iOS. They said those are app-centric approaches. You go to apps and then you find people, where with our phone you go to people and then you find what you want to do with them. And I don't like either approach because, you know, my brain is not always apps and it's not always people. I want to go to a camera to take a picture. It doesn't matter who the picture's of. Or I want to find Kevin. It shouldn't matter what the communication's of. And I'm interested because BlackBerry 10 seems to be like trying to walk the middle line there.
Yeah, they definitely do with BlackBerry 10, where they want to put people right where you need them, and then once you need people, then everything you have is there. So for example, like you're in your inbox, you can slide down to see your upcoming appointments. If you know who that's scheduled with, you can see your contacts there. You tap on a contact, and it's showing you their full history and activity stream that it pulls in automagically.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, or even the hub where you can kind of peek in from wherever you are to your communications and your people info, but it's not in your face everywhere. It's
And live tiles are sort of a mix of people and apps and...
Yeah, I mean, they're basically sophisticated icons, right? But they're just, it's more universal in how they're designed, right? You have they're simple squares with different sizes. So they're different paradigms. I think there's room for all of them, and people are going to have their preference. I think the Windows Phone actually benefits both from being unique, but at the same time, it's a disadvantage because people see it and they're kind of like, it's not as exciting, or maybe they're just, you know, until they start using it, they don't appreciate it. So that's also a
WAT
disadvantage.
what?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting to see because I don't think either model works great. I think we're still living in a world of pull interface where we have to go find that widget, go find that live tile, go find that app icon, go find that hub. And I really want to see a company step up and say, this is push data. No matter where you are, that notification is going to come to you. You can change your alarm. You can do this, and we're going to actually project interface to you. And I know that, you know, the chatterheads are going to do that to an extent. There's different views in BlackBerry 10. In iOS 6, Apple made Springboard and Backboard, so maybe they can have headless apps. But that's what I want us to start seeing, these next generation interfaces.
But there's still a balance where you don't want it to be too disruptive, which is my fear when you move into push away from pull. You know, you just create AD&D or ADD in your mobile experience, right? Just info coming at you and everywhere, and
Yeah,
you
your
can't
phone
do one
sliding
thing.
up and turning on,
Yeah.
and notifying you like.
I mean, we ran a BBM stress test the other day, right? Where I posted my BlackBerry Messenger pin to the internet. We got flooded with thousands of requests. The phone handled it fine, but you know what the problem was after that? try having a phone with 2,000 BBM contacts. Because as you're typing a message, if people message you, it flies in the message down.
Yeah.
Well, it would fly in 5 messages in a row, push everything down. There was nothing left to type on. It took up the entire
stacked,
screen. It just
notifications.
stacked the.
It
wasn't
it
built to
stacked my
scale.
screen
Yeah.
away. So I was like, all right, this is platform strong. It can handle it, but not so good in real life.
Well, so here's the thing. I mean, iOS is now. Some people say that iOS is boring. You told us previously that you searched the internet looking for iPhone is boring.
boredom is a real. iPhone boredom is like a thing. Like,
It's a
yeah, it's coming.
psychological disorder, DSM-5.
Yeah, people
Not
are,
otherwise specified.
people are getting
Yeah.
treated for it. Yeah, the cure is
so-
Blackberries and Windows phones. Android
Earlier
phones.
this week, I had this branch conversation with John Gruber, MG Siegler, a bunch of other really smart people, Clayton Morris, Matthew Panzerino, and all of us kind of shared a little bit of what we've been hearing about iOS 7. And I heard, that Jonathan Ive is in there. Scott Forstall left. Jonathan Ive is in there. John Gruber said that he heard it's been actually delayed, iOS 7, which kind of fits with what we heard about the iPhone 5S only coming in August, because you changed the cook running the kitchen, you're going to have a delay. And we have heard that he's making the OS more elegant. That people who love the rich texture are going to be disappointed. I know some people wanted him to go through there with a sandblaster, maybe not to that extent. But we also heard that the grid of icons is still going to be there. And arguably that's important because my 5-year-old godson, my mother, all these people, icon, home screen. It's the least stressful, most accessible computing experience ever. But other people find that boring, and I don't know how Apple balances that, going to the next generation or two.
Slowly and steadily, they have to make change, but probably not too much at any one given time. I mean, BlackBerry 10, for example, very gesture focused now. It's highly addictive once you get used to it, but you need to get used to it. The learning curve there, that initial adjustment time, is a lot longer than this, right? This is like 10 seconds, and you know it the rest of your life. This is maybe a couple hours, a couple weeks before it's really just native. But once you go back to it, once you learn a more advanced user interface, going back to something like this feels very old school. I mean, it's the way how everything went touchscreen and people made fun of our BlackBerries with physical keyboards. After using this now with a completely gesture-based UI and going back to having to hit a button to get to the home screen, I think that feels old school. But that's a standard. You have hundreds of millions of people using it, and too much change too quick could really be a risk for Apple.
The same was true this is now the oldest operating system in mobile, the oldest major operating system in mobile. BlackBerry just transitioned everybody from BlackBerry 7 to BlackBerry 10. Arguably they had to, but does Apple have to do that now? Do they have to go to the next thing?
I think Apple is in a position where they need to do the absolute minimum they can get away with.
They've had more success. So.
Because they will keep being successful, right? They're basically in like the milking position of like, what's the minimum we can do to make everybody upgrade? We know we're going to lose some market share to big touch, like Note 2s.
Well, everyone's
and other
making good
things.
phones now, right?
Everybody's making great phones now, but Apple's making it for the most
They're going to
people.
have to.
anyone-
Though. They're going to have to do a paradigm shift at some point. Though. They just have to.
Everyone has to.
Everybody has
Microsoft
to.
did
right.
theirs, BlackBerry did
But
theirs.
they can get away with it differently. Like with BlackBerry moving from 7 to 10, that was architectural. Like the architecture of BlackBerry
Yeah.
7 was
Yeah.
screwed. It
JTME
no longer.
is
Well,
your
I mean,
next.
it was massive.
But
change.
Apple has this long-term problem that Microsoft is in the midst of solving right now, with Windows 8, Windows Phone 8, which is merging their platforms together, and that's the long-term, I would imagine, goal of iOS and OS 10. But and that's got to be rectified at some point.
But Microsoft has merged them. Apple might just keep going until OS 10 is no longer useful and
right.
iOS is just a new thing.
That's true too. But that's an interesting question of
Yeah.
like how that's going to happen. And Android right now seems to be like
We
they
have
don't
Chrome
have a
OS.
plan.
We have Android
Yeah,
OS.
yeah. We have Chrome OS. And what about they're going to
Android has no plan. I think that's.
Well, no, but that's
true.
they have infinite diversity. That's their strategy.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
so. It really is interesting because Apple is in a position now where they have those 100 million users they have to drag behind them. We were looking at all these phones on this table. This is the smallest phone
Yeah, let me line some
currently
up here.
on the market. And there are rumors that Apple might do a bigger phone. There are rumors Apple might do a cheaper phone. Nokia now, you said, is doing phones from, was it the 420 to the 920?
520.
Look at this. I
520
mean,
and 920.
basically, these other phones look like a case that the iPhone 5 could go into.
So right now, Apple has one phone a year. It's easy to counter program. We've had Samsung events, we've had HTC events. Apple, we've had no events yet, and that part of that is because of that strategy. And I don't know if Apple going to BlackBerry is going to do at least 2 phones, right?
Well, they'll have at least 2. I mean,
And there's talk of a low-end phone too.
there's more coming for sure. I mean, they've started and they've already announced the Z10, which is here, the full touchscreen. They're going to have the full keyboard Q10 that's there for all the people who just love having a physical keyboard on their phone. I mean, it's not a growing market, but it's a market that BlackBerry pretty much owns. So a lot of people are looking forward to that device. And then after that, you'll see different price points. And God, a lot of people want to see a vertical slider from BlackBerry, because if there's a company that might do one, it feels like it's them.
So you think Apple needs to take that strategy and have the low-end iPhone, the 4-inch iPhone, the 5-inch iPhone?
It's a risk, but at the same time, we talked about the next billion before, the emerging markets and developing markets of the world, which is really where all the growth is. Nokia is, diving into it with the 520, the 620.
India, China, Russia.
Yeah, the 520, which we'll be covering this week on Windows Phone Central, is a brand new Windows Phone 8 device. And it has a lot of great technology in it, and it sells for less than $200 off contract, which is ridiculous. I mean,
it's just an off contract. $200.
Yeah, and so it's really pushing. And Android's been there for a while already. I mean, Android's been doing this, but I guess you could argue differences with Android. Some of those devices are really poor, whereas this one, the user experience is very consistent.
And the iPhone 4 is $450 off contract.
Right. So can Apple go into that market? But it's almost anti-Apple, right?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think of Apple as making cheap phones.
I mean, this is why PCs were always. This is why I prefer PC ultimately, because PC is what drove computing, where Apple is, stayed up here. It was like a $2,000.
Well, yes and no. I mean, historically, companies that have dumped have not survived. Like no one who dumped VHS in the 80s is still around. The companies that dumped PCs in the market are in terrible financial shape now. Apple has 128 billion in the bank. One of the things that my pet peeve lately is Apple's not innovating. I mean, if you pick up an iPhone 5 or you pick up an iPod Touch, is a ridiculous piece of engineering. If you look at that and you don't think Apple's innovating, you should hit it against your head until you change that opinion. But are they innovating in the right direction? Is the question. Like, did people really need an iPhone 5S, an iPhone 5 that was this small? Could they have had a bigger one with better battery, better camera? Did they need an iPod Touch like that, or could they have made a low-end iPhone earlier? So, I mean, all these companies are innovating their pants off right now. They have to. It's the most competitive market in history, right?
Absolutely.
So, where do we go from here? We have iPhone 5S coming this fall. We have a full slate of BlackBerry devices coming.
That's true.
We have Blue.
This summer, Windows Phone 8 refresh. This is going to be a big summer for Microsoft. We have Build at the end of June, and we're expecting a new version of Windows Phone 8, Windows Phone 8.1 or Blue. Also, Windows 8 will get a refresh. That'll be also Blue. And I expect new hardware, new Nokia hardware, the Catwalk, aluminum phones, all this. So you're going to see a big, I think, refresh and push, a relaunch coming this late summer and fall for Microsoft for all their products at the same time.
And we have Galaxy S4, the HTC One, that Facebook phone. We're in New York filming this right now, not live, because I went to your BlackBerry party this weekend.
That's right. Yeah, we've been in New York for a few weeks now. Temporary New York office set up. Part of the reason for that was just BlackBerry 10 hit the US. We really killed the initial launch in Canada, and we wanted to, do the same in the USA here. This is the most important launch for BlackBerry
AT&T
ever.
so far?
AT&T now has the Z10, as does T-Mobile and Verizon. Sprint passed up on the Z10 for now, but they're getting the Q10.
Sprint.
Apparently, there's another rumored, BlackBerry 10
Hey,
touchscreen
we just got
other than
T-Mobile.
this coming there.
Like
That's
6
true,
years
yeah.
later, we got T-Mobile.
Yeah.
But we've been going at it hard, and this week we had a little Crackberry meetup party, which wasn't so little. It turned out to be just an awesome big...
260 people, 60 people beyond capacity, and these were hugely engaged.
Yeah.
They were Crackberry fans, but they were also Mobile Nations fans. There were iMore readers there,
absolutely.
Windows Phone Central readers there.
Yeah, New York. I mean, New York is just an amazing city, right? I mean,
It was at One Oak, and I still do not know how you got One Oak as a venue.
Yeah, well, they're BlackBerry fans, and they just couldn't wait to have Crackberry Kevin and the gang in there. So it worked for us. No, just great. And I mean, the response was amazing. Where we put up on a Friday afternoon that we were having the party the next Thursday. We took bets about how long it would take to RSVP out for a couple hundred people, thinking it would take 3 days or 4 days, or maybe we wouldn't hit it. And it was like a couple hours. Packed, and everybody showed up. That's the thing. Everybody says, oh, maybe 60% of the people who RSVP will show up. Not Crackberry people. I mean, they were all there and then some. And
And BlackBerry showed up. They had a
Yeah.
little booth there where you could actually demo the Q10, which hasn't been released
The
yet.
Q10 was there, and it was great. I mean,
Apple, if you're listening.
yeah, no, BlackBerry, honestly, it's crazy because I've been around the space since 2006, 2007 when CrackBerry launched. And BlackBerry at that time was the most closed off
Yeah,
company in
right.
the world. You know, we focus on enterprise, we focus on security. When I'd go to conferences,
Forget your puny
they
blogs.
would prep the people working their booths at conferences to not talk to bloggers. We were viewed as the enemy. You don't know what these
Yeah.
guys will write about you, so keep your mouth shut if you see
They're
this
crazy
guy come
like
around.
that.
And now that's
And-
Apple.
Yeah.
And now that's Apple, and BlackBerry has become literally the most like engaging
Yeah.
company in tech with their
they were a
I'd
bunch of
argue,
BlackBerry
Microsoft and Nokia have done a pretty.
Oh
good
no,
job.
you look, yeah. I'm sure there's
And-
lots, but I mean, it's
yeah.
crazy. I mean, the way they're
Actually,
actually now
I-
the face of the
Steve
company.
Ballmer has not called you yet.
This is true.
Okay, well, there
but
we
the
go,
Windows Phone
Steve.
team is pretty good with this. I would say actually Microsoft made a huge change with Windows Phone. That team is a lot more accessible now. I actually can name people on that team versus in the Windows Mobile days. It was just like that. It was a completely different market. And I would still say Android is still very much cut off.
Sure, yeah.
They're just cut
Google's-
off from the whole community. They don't get engaged at all
And,
with them.
yeah, whoever replaced Andy Rubin is strapped into some cybernetic chair somewhere.
Oh, BlackBerry's been great. Like even in terms of the employees, I know other companies have this, but you look at who they have on Twitter. I mean, their social teams, their development teams, like so engaged
There's a human
with the
face.
community.
There's a
Total
human
human face.
Whereas I think Android is literally an Android face. It's
Yeah.
that little stupid robot.
Phil's not.
Oh,
Phil's not here to defend Androids. This is
Yeah,
not
that's
fair.
fair.
What we should do is maybe get Phil on one of these shows sometime soon.
Well, I think we need to do more than that. I mean, it's been a lot of years since we've done a good old cross-site editorial debate.
Well, we're in New York City, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't think the round robin makes sense anymore though, because you know when we did the last one, it was like, oh my god, they put GPS and Wi-Fi into the N3G into the same phone. It's a little bit different now.
And
I
yeah,
mean,
and like for just Android, is you could have a round robin.
you
with
could have, yeah, it can't be about the phone anymore. But there's so many topics in mobile to talk about.
So you come up
So
with something.
yeah,
Stay tuned,
yeah.
Kevin.
Dude, obviously we're here for a reason for a couple months.
We have a plan. Kevin, where can we find out more about you and more about Crackberry.com?
Just follow crackberry.com every day. It's exciting times, and I'm on Twitter at crackberrykevin.
and app.net at CBK.
Yeah, which I don't use yet, so
We'll explain it to you after.
please
after
teach
class.
me
Yeah.
that and about lolcats and what's this YOLO thing about it?
YOLO.
YOLO.
Oh, come on.
Daniel, where
I
can we
learned
find
so
out-
much.
You can find me at Windows Phone Central pretty regularly, and you can follow me on Twitter, Daniel_.
Pretty regularly. We should be there like 100 times a day. Pretty
100 times a minute.
I check in
I
every
show
once
up
in a
when
while. You know, and yeah, we'll have something.
YOLO.
We'll have something about Instagram in Windows Phone this week, or Instagraph, the unofficial.
Are you
app.
gonna write about winning the smartphone madness?
No, we won't write about that because
Yeah, I won't write about it if you don't write about it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. That's
Promise. It's just we're just gonna let it die, and we'll get a million emails saying, "Why didn't you write about
Yeah,
winning?"
exactly.
You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find me on imore.com, and you can find all of us at mobilenations.com. For all of our shows, go to mobilenations.com/shows. And this is not the end. This is just the beginning.
Oh, I like that. That was good. Okay,
Well,
New York City. Let's go eat some food.
Mobile Nations out.